when you look at Odell Beckham Jr., to me, as a wide receiver, your success or failure is not, most often is not predicated on you. It's also predicated on your quarterback, your offensive line, the ability to get you the football. That's number one. And we don't know whether or not that's going to happen with the New York Giants because their offensive line is so highly questionable. And Eli Manning obviously has had eroded skills. But I think the important point that I brought up yesterday was that just because something is true doesn't mean you should always say it. And again, on a serious note, nothing personal or specific, but I remember years you and I talked, and you shared with me how you had to, as a player, because you know what you're talking about, and because you were a cerebral ball player as well, and because you're passionate and you care, and you know what you're talking about, you had to sometimes negotiate when to tell the truth and when to step back and not say that. And so as a result, thank God you were smart enough, but more importantly, you cared enough to be mindful of how your words and your actions could affect other people. The question that I throw back at you is, do you think Odell Beckham Jr. is the kind of guy at this stage and point that cares enough about those other folks in the midst of frustration? I know he's a good guy. Right. I'm not questioning any of that. But I'm saying in the midst of his frustration, which is valid, very, very legit, is he the right guy to be saying what he said, knowing how it could potentially come across and the kind of damage it could do to the Giants organization?
I think he was trying to be honest. I think he was trying to share his feelings. And what I know about Odell is he's a really caring teammate, right? I made this point when he got his deal. I've been in locker rooms where people have gotten a lot of money. I've never seen one person celebrated the way that Odell Beckham Jr. was. You don't have lifelong relationships with people like Jarvis Landry if you're a bad teammate, if you're a guy who doesn't care about the people in the locker room. I trained Landon Collins. We're extremely close. He talks about Odell Beckham Jr. glowingly as a teammate.
Teammates like him.
He's a guy who made a mistake. And I think what's telling is after the game, Odell Beckham Jr. was talking about being a leader. And he says, I'm learning on the fly. Here is what I believe about leaders. Leaders don't learn. You do not learn how to lead men. People that are leaders of men have always been that way. When you're a leader of men, you were the leader in high school, you were the leader in college, you're going to be a leader in the league. And a lot of times that is not based upon your talent. That's based upon your ability to get people to come together and follow you. I don't believe Odell Beckham Jr. is that guy. We're heaping that on him because he's talented.
Can you ask me the question again?
Yeah, of course.
Did you forget the question?
No,
I want to be very clear.
We kind of skipped from the
No.
beginning. You want the first one or the second one? Because they answered both, actually.
First question.
So how important is Thursday night to the Giants moving on from the Odell controversy?
You see what we did with the question? Baked in are assumptions that aren't even true. How important is it for the Giants to move on from the Odell controversy is exactly the opposite of what we should be asking here. Because the answer is, it's really important, forget about move on from it, to keep the momentum they got from the energy. I disagree with you. I saw an energized team. To keep the momentum from the energy Odell gave them. It's not just what he said, it's the way he played. And yes, he made mistakes early because he was trying to do too much. But they could see our best player is trying to do so much. It galvanized the team, especially with his crime partner, Saquon Barkley.
I have a question. Right? I spoke about I said, what happens is the way that they play the game, the way that Odell Beckham Jr. played the game on Sunday. I said nothing about his words. You're saying exactly what I'm saying, that it's not about it wasn't the words that he said that changed this team. It was the way he went out and performed.
Yes, but it's all the same sort of thing. It's Odell saying, I got my money. Our leader, Eli Manning, isn't good enough to be the leader of the team anymore. Because if you're a substandard player, you can't really be the leader. Even if you're the quarterback, the players are going to look around and say, as you know, Ryan, like, come on, he's not balling. I mean, that's what Odell was really talking about. Everyone knows it. So Odell said, okay, fine, I'll do everything I can do. Saquon followed his lead. Saquon, although the yards per carry were whatever, he was dynamic whenever he could be. Now, Olivier Vernon's coming back. That whole defense is going to change. That Betcher 3-4 with Olivier Vernon, they are going to be a good defense. If they can sustain the momentum, they really basically a 63-yard field goal, or else they're on the road against one of the better teams in the league with what should have been a win, really behind Odell Beckham Jr.'s play. Now, you get your best defender or your best defender in the front seven back. This Giants team, if they get a win against the Eagles, can resurrect the season from 1-4, from at the time 1-3 to 2-4, and not be out of it.
With all due respect, you're being optimistic, and I'm not saying off kilter, but you're being optimistic. And the Giants have given you no justification outside of this past Sunday to be optimistic. So it's perfectly within my right to be a bit more realistic, if not pessimistic. Here's the reality. You're looking at Odell Beckham Jr. and the Giants. What I'm paying attention to, Ryan, specifically, is this. The second that the effort doesn't match what we saw Sunday, the second that the level of production doesn't match what we saw Sunday, what kind of reaction are folks going to get then? I'm sitting there and I'm watching folks talk about Sterling Shepard getting upset on the sideline and getting into some little temper tantrum. First name they brought up was Odell Beckham Jr. They say he got it from him. He got it from him. Anything that happens with this team, from a negative to, and I'm not saying it's fair, and I'm not saying it's right, because I don't have a problem with Odell. What I'm saying is I don't disagree with him because I think he was wrong. I disagree because I think the desired effect from a sustained perspective, meaning over the long haul, I question whether or not that's going to work to the advantage of the New York Giants.
What did they
that's
have to
all
lose?
I'm saying.
They were 1-3 when he said it.
And I don't think so. So when Odell is answering these questions, he's not looking at the longevity of the answers. He's not looking at the consequence of the answers. He's answering the questions. The one thing you know about him is when the lights are on, when the whistle is blown, this dude is 100% all out.
I agree.
And that will continue.